Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho, and it's Saturday, week 4. Time for the injury report. We're going to go through every single team, tell you who's in, who is out, and help you make those lineup decisions. After all the news, I will give you my final rankings on the week. So let us begin with the teams that are healthy. We already have Arizona and Seattle play on Thursday, but if you have anyone on the Falcons, the Bills, the Browns, the Broncos, the Lions, the Patriots, the Jets, or the Eagles, all of their offensive weapons are healthy. All of them are good to go. You can start them with confidence. But let us move into the players on the injury report. In Baltimore, we got Isaiah Likely expected to return to the field. He's questionable with his foot injury, but he was limited Wednesday and Thursday after being limited all of last week. And then on Friday, he was finally full in practice. So he will suit up. So Mark Andrews' touch split is in jeopardy. There's a chance that Likely does emerge as the top tight end by the end of the season. But after last week, Andrews played well. I don't think I would be trusting Likely, even though he went off against the Chiefs last year in week 1. We'll see what happens in the Ravens tight end room. In Carolina, there are some new injuries to speak of. Chuba Hubbard is questionable with a calf injury, which happened midweek. He was full on Wednesday, but then on Thursday, he pulled up limited, and same goes for Friday. So not 100%. Rico Dowdle probably gets a few more touches, but I do expect Chuba to play. He's the game time decision, but I think he's still the guy, and I expect him to be on the field. It's not like he missed practice entirely. So Chuba dealing with some slight pain in the calf, and then McMillan also dealing with a calf injury and a hamstring injury. Did not practice on Wednesday, but then on Thursday and Friday upgraded to limited on both of those days. And if you recall, before the season, he also had a hamstring injury, so maybe this is just maintenance related, but in general, it's not ideal. And while I do expect him to play, he might not be 100%. He is a game time decision after all. So make sure he's going to play. I think he will, but in general, the Panthers wide receiver room is pretty banged up. Xavier Legette is also out this week with a hamstring injury, did not practice at all this week, and it's at least one more week where Jalen Coker remains on IR. We'll see if he comes back starting in week 5, but for now, he's unavailable, and that means Hunter Renfrow and Bryson Tremaine may step up, but don't expect year 2 tight end Jatavion Sanders to step up. He is also out as well. He suffered a high ankle sprain last week. So he's week to week, did not practice at all in week 4, and he is not available. So Tommy Tremble will get an upgrade in terms of snaps at the tight end, but I'm not sure I really trust Bryce Young to distribute the ball to anyone consistently other than McMillan. It's a pretty random target share in Carolina. So I'm not really confident in any Panther this week. I think the Patriots defense kind of benefit a little bit playing at home against a very banged up Carolina Panthers offense. In Chicago, DeAndre Swift is questionable with a hip injury. He was limited all week in practice, and he is expected to play. Last week, he was also limited in all 3 sessions. That was with a quad injury, so it is a different situation, but it's the same level maintenance. I think he will be fine, good to go. But Kyle Monangai has started to get a little more work in the backfield. Week 1, nobody was relevant. Last 2 games, Roshan has been irrelevant, but Kyle Monangai is getting about 4 carries per game. So maybe his snap share will go up, but in general, I'm only trusting Swift. And Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end, is also questionable as well with a hip injury. Limited on Friday after not practicing both Wednesday and Thursday. So he's a game time decision. He's not really emerged in this offense yet. He's still finding his footing. And that means Cole Kmet does deserve an upgrade. Maybe Kmet is a bit more legit given Loveland, not 100%. But I still don't trust the tight end room in Chicago to be consistent. He needs a touchdown, not a safe bet. I will still bench Cole Kmet. But if he has another good game this week, it's possible he's a top 15 tight end in next week's rankings. In Cincinnati, we all know Joe Burrow is on IR. However, Noah Fant, the tight end, is questionable with a concussion and did not practice Thursday or Friday, not expected to play on Monday. So that means Mike Gesicki will run extra routes. However, I don't really trust anyone in the Bengals offense right now. I don't think this moves the needle. Not expecting Fant to play is kind of irrelevant, but worth mentioning. In Dallas, CeeDee Lamb is out with that ankle sprain 3 to 4 weeks is the expected timeline. So in general, until he comes back, George Pickens and Jake Ferguson will see an increased target share, and Dak Prescott probably not going to be as effective in fantasy. Not worth starting Dak without CeeDee Lamb in bad matchups. But in Denver, Evan Engram has returned to the field. He's active with that back injury. He was limited Wednesday, Thursday, but then upgraded to full on Friday. So I knew this when I made my rankings yesterday, and I do think he's an interesting streamer. Coming back to the field against the Bengals top 5 matchup, there is a chance Engram does play well. Bo Nix, I think, benefits having Engram back on the field. In Green Bay, Jayden Reed, the wide receiver, is on IR for about another month or so. And then Marshawn Lloyd has been on IR pretty much his entire career, but Tucker Kraft was removed from the injury report. Last week, he suffered a knee injury, missed practice on Thursday, Friday, but did play 88% of the snaps against the Browns. And this week, he was limited Wednesday, Thursday, but on Friday, upgraded to full. So he's fully good to go. No worries on Tucker Kraft. A must start against a terrible Cowboys defense. Josh Jacobs was also deemed active after being limited Wednesday and Thursday with an ankle injury. He was full on Friday. He's good to go as well. They have a bye next week, so any lingering pain should be gone when they come back in week 6. However, I do want to mention, I brought it up last week, Christian Watson, the wide receiver, is out, but is expecting to open up his practice window after week 4 when he comes off the PUP list. So they got a bye in week 5. We might see him in week 6. We'll see what happens on Christian Watson, but he does plan to start practicing next week. In Houston, Nico Collins, dealing with a knee injury, was limited on Wednesday in practice, but then full on both Thursday and Friday. He is good to go, deemed active for this game. Joe Mixon has been out all year. We don't know when he's coming back, but Woody Marks is a player to consider picking up off the waiver wire. His touch split with Chubb was up to 7 touches last week. Chubb had 12. So it's possible in the next 2 weeks it flips in his favor. If it's 50-50 in this game, Woody Marks would be an excellent pickup off the wire. You might want to do it before Sunday so that he's much less expensive off the waiver wire. It's always possible Chubb goes down at any point in time. In Indianapolis, Alec Pierce is out with a concussion, so he has had 13 targets on the season, 5 in each of the last 2 games. That does offer some extra volume for guys like Pittman, Josh Downs, and A.D. Mitchell. Maybe it all goes to Tyler Warren, though. In general, I don't really trust too many mouths in the Colts passing game. Only Pittman, I think, is safe, other than Warren. In Jacksonville, Dyami Brown is questionable with a shoulder injury, and he did not practice Wednesday, but then was limited both Thursday and Friday. So he is a game-time decision. If he doesn't suit up, I think Parker Washington will get more snaps himself, but I do expect Dyami to play. However, last week, it was a weird target share in general. I still am only trusting Brian Thomas Jr. in my lineup if I'm starting a single Jags receiver. In Kansas City, we all know that Rashee Rice remains suspended through the first 6 games, so 3 more weeks without him. In week 7, he will be back, but Xavier Worthy is going to be back for this game. He was full in practice all week, all 3 practices. He was good to go, so that shoulder injury appears to be behind him. That is positive news for both him and Patrick Mahomes. That's definitely a benefit for Mahomes. The Chiefs' offense should look better against the Ravens. In the Chargers' offense, we all know that Najee Harris is out for the year, placed on IR after going down last week with an Achilles injury, but Hassan Haskins may be the next man up in this rotation. In general, I'm only trusting Omarion Hampton. I don't think Haskins will really factor in much, but we will see what happens with a full week of practice reps for a new backup in LA. Will Dissly, the tight end, is out, and last week we thought maybe Tyler Conklin would get the upgrade. However, it was indeed Oronde Gadsden, the 4th round rookie tight end in LA, that got the benefit. He had 7 targets in week 3, and with Dissly out yet again, it's possible Gadsden has some waiver wire appeal after this game. I don't know if I would trust 7 targets a week, but it's possible this offense does have a lot of upside in general. So that's something to monitor, but for now, I'm not going to pick up Gadsden. And in the Rams offense, Davante Adams was questionable with a hamstring injury that forced him to miss practice on both Wednesday and Thursday. He did return on Friday in limited capacity. According to him, he feels good to play, and the expectation is that he will suit up. But obviously, it's a game time call. There is some risk involved. I think he'll be fine. He's 32 years old, and at this stage of his career, I don't think he needs to practice in order to play well. But it is relevant. It's not ideal, and for now, I'm not going to worry about it. I still think Adams is a must start, but it's possible he does miss some time later in the year. In case he does, Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell would be the immediate impact upgrades. There's a chance that Jordan Whittington steps up, but it's also probably going to be more touchdowns for Kyren Williams if Adams does not play. I'd also like to bring up tight end Tyler Higbee and Colby Parkinson, the first and third stringer, are questionable in this game. So Davis Allen might get the start, might get an upgrade, but I would like to see what the rookie Terrence Ferguson can do. Right now he's fourth on the depth chart, but maybe he gets more routes if Higbee and Parkinson can't go. In Las Vegas, Michael Mayer, the backup tight end, is out with a concussion. So Brock Bowers is going to get less competition in that regard. Bowers was already elite in terms of tight end options, so he might be even better against Chicago and their bad defense. In Miami, Tyreek Hill is questionable with a personal issue. He did not practice on Saturday, but he was full both Wednesday and Thursday, and assuming he can make it to the stadium on Monday, he will play. So not worried about Tyreek Hill, but is questionable on the official injury report. And Jaylen Waddle is active. He was limited Thursday with a shoulder injury, but full on Friday and Saturday. He is good to go. He will play. Darren Waller is also expected to make his season debut. The tight end has been dealing with a hip injury, yet to play. He was retired last year, and we'll see how much he contributes in this offense. For now, I would not start him. Not going to pick him up off the wire, but let's monitor how he plays. He might look good. He used to be really good in the NFL. Those days are kind of over. In Minnesota, J.J. McCarthy is out, so Carson Wentz, as expected, will get the start yet again, and I do expect him to start the London game as well. I think there's only a chance for McCarthy to return after the Week 6 bye, and if Carson Wentz goes 3-0, then I don't think they're going to rush McCarthy back anytime soon. I think Wentz will have some job security, at least up until the bye week in Week 6. We'll see what happens after that. But Jordan Addison does return to the field. He's active. That suspension is over, and he will benefit from a weak Steelers secondary. They've dealt with some injuries so far this year. Aaron Jones has been on IR for over a week now, so Jordan Mason is the guy, but it looks like Xavier Scott has won the backup job. They relegated Cam Akers back to the practice squad earlier in the week. So Xavier Scott is the backup behind Jordan Mason, and Mason doesn't really catch passes, so Scott actually does offer some PPR value, but not enough to roster as of this point in time. In New England, Rhamondre Stevenson is active. He's fully healthy, but we weren't sure what the touch split might look like given those 2 fumbles last week. According to Vrabel, in his own words, Rhamondre is not going to be disciplined for those fumbles. So if you were hyped on Travion, if you wanted to start him because you're sure that Rhamondre's in the doghouse, I wouldn't be too confident just yet. I need to see it before I trust Travion gets the bulk of the workload in New England. For now, I still think Rhamondre is pretty relevant. We'll see what happens against the Panthers. In New York for the Giants, Tyrone Tracy is out as expected. So Cam Scatterboot gets that upgrade, a bulk of the carries headed his way, and Devin Singletary is his backup. It's a bad matchup against the Chargers, though, so not dying to start either of them. Obviously, Scatterboot has high-end flex appeal because he's really effective in the passing game, and there's probably some garbage time available for the Giants. Russell Wilson, though, was benched, so Jackson Dart will make his rookie debut against the Chargers defense, so upgrade the Chargers defense. And kicker Graham Gano is out, expected to be placed on IR. So they have a competition going on. Last I checked, it looks like Younghoe Koo is probably going to win the job, but it's not guaranteed. He is competing with somebody else. So this week, not going to start a Giants kicker. If you had Graham Gano, you need a replacement. Malik Neighbors, though, dealt with a back injury, didn't practice on Wednesday, but was full on Friday, limited Thursday. He is just fine. He is active. Malik Neighbors needs to be in your lineup. In the Jets offense, looks like Justin Fields cleared concussion protocol. earlier this week. So after logging 2 full practices on Thursday and Friday, he has been deemed active. He will start against the Dolphins. I believe the Jets will win this game on the back of Justin Fields. I think he'll have a great game. They've given up 3 rushing touchdowns so far this season, paired with 6 passing touchdowns. I expect Fields to have a very good game. The Dolphins have also not forced a turnover yet by an opposing quarterback. Fields should be a top 5 option in fantasy this week. Josh Reynolds, the wide receiver 2, is active. He's missed the last couple games, so good to have him back, but not really a contributor in fantasy. Only Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall have any value other than Fields. And in Philadelphia, backup running back Will Shipley is active as well. He's missed the last 2 games with an oblique injury, and he was full all week in practice. So if Saquon does go down, they have better depth at the position. I trust Shipley a lot more than Bigsby and A.J. Dillon. In Pittsburgh, Jaylen Warren is questionable. He missed practice on Wednesday. It was deemed veteran rest. Given they are traveling to Ireland, maybe that has something to do with it. But he did return to practice, limited the rest of the week with a knee injury. So he is expected to play. He's a game time call. In Dublin, though, I expect him on the field. He's seen 18 touches per game this season. I think he's at worst a high-end flex play. But it is worth mentioning they did upgrade Trey Sermon up from the practice squad, so they don't really trust Caleb Johnson. In case Warren gets further banged up, maybe Kenny Gainwell and Trey Sermon get some touches in this game. However, Jonnu Smith was given the same treatment, the veteran rest on Wednesday. He did not practice, and he's questionable with a hip injury, but limited both Thursday and Friday. I am expecting Jonnu to suit up, but maybe Pat Freiermuth gets a few more looks. I expect Jonnu to still be active, and that means I'm not really starting a Steelers tight end if they're both healthy. In San Francisco, we have Brock Purdy active for this game, so he missed 2 games. He will return to the field with a shoulder, toe, and knee injury. He got really banged up in week 1. So limited in practice Wednesday, Thursday, but full on Friday. He is good to go. And his backup, Mac Jones, is questionable, limited all week with a knee injury. So he might even be the 3rd string option this week. He may not be fully healthy himself. And so I do expect Purdy to play the full game unless he just gets wrecked and further aggravates one of those injuries. But I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be fine. But obviously he's without tight end George Kittle, who's on IR until at least week 6. And Brandon Ayuk is out, but there was some optimism that maybe by week 6 he would make his return. The update on him is that is a no longer realistic timeline for Brandon Ayuk. We do not know when he'll be back. Maybe not until after week 8 or 9 for Brandon Ayuk. Ricky Pearsall, though, is questionable with a knee injury. Did not practice Wednesday, but limited Thursday, Friday. I do think he will suit up, but he is a game time decision. According to him, back on Wednesday, if the game was earlier in the week, he would have played. I think Ricky Pearsall will be active. Jauan Jennings, also a game time decision. Not quite sure about him. I think that's more of a 50-50 situation. Jennings is dealing with an ankle and shoulder injury and did not practice either Wednesday nor Thursday. But on Friday, he was limited, so he did get some action on the practice field. So it's a game time call. I don't think he's 100%, and I really don't know exactly how many routes he's going to run, even if he is on the field. So that's not good news. I've been mentioning it on the channel that Demarcus Robinson might have some value, and even though it's easy to write him off, this is why. They're very banged up in San Francisco in the receiver room. There's also a possible injury that gets aggravated in this game. Right now, Demarcus Robinson looks like the healthiest guy that they have. So he's active. His suspension is over. Last week, Kendrick Bourne in his place had 6 targets. There is some relevance for the number 3 receiver in San Francisco. Demarcus Robinson does take that claim this week. Maybe he's an interesting pickup heading into week 5. But for now, I'm definitely not going to start Demarcus Robinson. In Tampa Bay, quarterback Baker Mayfield is questionable with a right bicep injury. Limited all week in practice. On Wednesday, apparently, he did not throw, and on Thursday, he barely threw at all. On Friday, it did increase, and it looks like he is good to go. They're expecting him to be available against the Eagles. Maybe they're just playing it safe, given they also have some other injuries on the team. Like Mike Evans, he's out for this game with a hamstring injury, did not practice at all this week, and they are expecting him to miss at least a few games. So maybe he's back in week 6, but perhaps it's even later. For now, Egbuka gets a massive upgrade with Evans going down. But they do get Chris Godwin back. He was full in practice on Wednesday and Friday, even though he didn't practice Thursday. That was just veteran rest. That was all part of the plan to scale him back to get on the field. So Chris Godwin will return, but obviously not expecting him to be as elite as he was last season. We'll see how much he ramps it up in this matchup against the Eagles. So I actually believe Cade Otton gets one of the biggest upgrades overall, but on paper, it's actually a bad matchup against the Eagles. They've been stopping tight ends so far, and maybe I'm wrong, but I do think Egbuka and Cade Otton are pretty safe bets to score a touchdown. Otton has stepped up in the past when other receivers have gone down. So with Jalen McMillan on IR for half of the year, they're probably going to lean on the run, and I think Cade Otton and Egbuka will step up. I don't think Godwin can do everything on his own. So that's an interesting situation. In Tampa this week, maybe the Eagles are actually a safer bet to win the game, but I do believe Tampa will continue their dominance over Jalen Hurts. In Tennessee, there's no update on Tyjae Spears. He remains on IR, so I do not know if he'll start practicing starting next week, but the minimum 4 weeks he's going to miss on IR will be expiring pretty soon. He might be back on the field as soon as week 5. In Washington, last team to mention, Jayden Daniels is out, and that's what I expected yesterday when I ranked the position. So Marcus Mariota in the streaming conversation gets an upgrade, offers good rushing value, but he will be without top wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who is out for this game. They also are without Noah Brown, so Deebo Samuel, Luke McCaffrey, and Jalen Lane will be on the field more often, and they all get a minor upgrade without Terry and Noah Brown. JCM, the rookie running back, is questionable though with a knee injury, and he did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday, but then was full on Friday. So for him to be full, no concern there. I guess it was just maintenance, but obviously I do think McNichols and Rodriguez still factor in. It's mainly a 3-headed backfield in Washington right now. So the running quarterback also factors in. I don't think it's a safe bet to start any Commanders running back. It's also a very tough matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. So not ideal even without Eckler. He's on IR. I don't trust JCM at this point in time. But I would like to mention Jayden Daniels was limited in Wednesday and Thursday practice. He did not practice at all on Friday. So the team doctors did not deem him ready to play. But according to him, he thought that he could. And I think it's pretty optimistic that in week 5 against the Chargers, he will suit up. I have tickets for that game. I'm really hoping that Daniels is back next week. I think he will be, given he was practicing both Wednesday and Thursday. An extra week of rest should bode well for Jayden Daniels. That's it for the offensive updates in terms of injuries around the league. Now I'd also like to bring up some defensive and offensive line injuries. Let's try and go quickly through the NFL. In Atlanta, cornerback AJ Terrell is out yet again, so one of their best options in the secondary, maybe Deebo Samuel, does have a better game, a slight upgrade for him. In Baltimore, they're without 2 starting defensive ends that are both out for this matchup, and linebacker Kyle Van Noy, who missed last week, has been upgraded to questionable. So I think he will play. They need a lot of help in their run defense. However, left tackle Ronnie Stanley is questionable, may not suit up on Sunday. So maybe Derrick Henry gets stuffed behind the line of scrimmage a few more times. In Buffalo, they have 7 total players on defense that are either out or on IR. That's been the case all season. Most notably, Ed Oliver and Matt Milano. So they've been a bad defense so far, an upgrade for opposing quarterbacks. Rattler actually has some super flex appeal this week in Buffalo. In Carolina, they have 2 linebackers that are starters, both deemed out. So the New England running backs might benefit in that regard. In Chicago, right tackle Darnell Wright is also out. So perhaps Swift is less effective running the ball. Cornerback Jalen Johnson was placed on IR. He's been out for a few weeks. And defensive tackle Grady Jarrett also out for this game. So is linebacker TJ Edwards out as well. Their nickel cornerback Kyler Gordon, who's missed some games, was upgraded to questionable though, and it looks like he will probably suit up in this matchup. So in general, the Bears defense sucks. Geno Smith and Ashton Genty, I think, deserve a legit upgrade this week against Chicago. The Bengals defense is getting healthier. cornerback Cam Taylor-Britt, and defensive end Shamar Stewart, the first-round rookie, have both been upgraded to questionable. Last week they didn't play. They need all the help they can get against Denver. So that is positive, but still not enough for me to fear the Bengals defense. In Dallas, they do get some help. Cornerback Deron Bland is active for this one. Maybe he catches a pick six on Jordan Love. And right guard Tyler Booker has been deemed out. He is no longer available in this matchup. So the Green Bay wide receivers might be a little less effective, but I do think that the pass rush for the Packers will be even better than expected. Without Tyler Booker, should be Micah Parsons' dream scenario against Dak Prescott. In Detroit, left tackle Taylor Decker is questionable, so maybe that impacts Jared Goff a bit. But in Green Bay, left guard Aaron Banks is doubtful, and then their right tackle Zach Tom is also out. So we've seen Josh Jacobs struggle to run the ball effectively this season, pretty low yards per carry for him, and maybe it continues. Maybe Jordan Love has less time in the pocket without two starting offensive linemen. In Houston, cornerback Derek Stingley is questionable with an oblique injury. That could bode well for Calvin Ridley, and they're also without free safety Jimmy Ward for yet another game. He's missed since week 1. The free safety has been off the field, so maybe Calvin Ridley gets a break, but I still think Stingley will play. Only questionable, I think he'll be all right, but maybe not. It's possible that's a big break for Cam Ward and the Tennessee passing game. In Indianapolis, right guard Matt Goncalves is out, but I still trust Jonathan Taylor with my life. And in Kansas City, right defensive end Mike Dana is doubtful. Rookie backup is questionable. The third stringer is also on IR. So the pass rush for the Chiefs is a bit injured this week, and in the Chargers offensive line, they're missing 2 players, most likely. Center Bradley Bozeman is questionable, not guaranteed to play, and right guard Mekhi Becton has been already ruled out. So perhaps the Giants defensive line is going to tee off. They have a very good one, so definitely not ideal. Perhaps Omarion Hampton will be less effective against the Giants, but they've been bad at stopping the run. I still trust Hampton in my lineup. In Minnesota, left guard Donovan Jackson has been ruled out. So is linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel. And in general, I still worry about the Vikings defense. I do not give Rodgers an upgrade. In New England, cornerback Christian Gonzalez appears to be returning to the field. He's still questionable, but that's an upgrade from the first 3 games. He has been ruled out up until this point. So if he does play, that would be a downgrade for Tetairoa McMillan. It's not a guarantee, but he's by far one of the best players in their defense, and that would really move the needle. I would not trust Bryce Young at all, given the injuries they have, and if Christian Gonzalez is back on the field. That is not a good matchup for Tet McMillan. Their left guard, Jared Wilson, is out, so maybe the run game less effective in New England. And in the Giants defense, Raheem Nunez-Roches, pass rusher, is doubtful, not expected to play. Maybe the Chargers O-line catches a break without him on the field. The Jets defensive line is without Jermaine Johnson. He's out as well. And in Philadelphia, cornerback Adoree Jackson is doubtful. So opposite Quinyon Mitchell, they were already kind of reeling from last year. It's a downgrade with Jackson already. If he's unavailable, then we go further into the depth. Emeka Egbuka and Chris Godwin will benefit from this injury. So not ideal for Philly, but still they have some good depth elsewhere. I think it'll be all right as a whole. In Pittsburgh, cornerback Joey Porter Jr. upgraded to questionable. He's missed the last 2 games, so maybe he's able to limit Justin Jefferson a little bit, but I'd still trust Jefferson, no doubt about it. In San Francisco, we all knew that defensive end Nick Bosa was placed on IR. Just wanted to bring it up again. And in Tampa Bay, left tackle Tristan Wirfs has been upgraded to questionable. He is expected to make his season debut in Week 4 against Philadelphia. Same practice logs as Chris Godwin in that offense. That is definitely a good sign. Definitely beneficial for guys like Bucky Irving and Baker Mayfield. Lastly, in Tennessee, right tackle J.C. Latham is out, so maybe Tony Pollard is less effective against the Texans this week. That is it for the injury updates all across the league, not just on offense, but defense as well. With that out of the way, let us finalize my rankings this week. I'm mainly only changing things at running back and wide receiver because I ranked those earlier in the week when I don't have this information. So with that in mind, in the top 10 at running back, I am downgrading Josh Jacobs a couple of spots. I don't think you're benching him. He's still a top 10 running back. But with the 2 injuries on the offensive line, I doubt his yards per carry is going to increase very much. So not my favorite play in the top 10, but still a must start. The volume is too good to ignore. Josh Jacobs moves down 2 spots behind Kyren Williams and Devon Achane, but still a top 10 play. You have to start Jacobs if you have him. Outside the top 15, I did upgrade Breece Hall. He is now my running back 19. The matchup against Miami is actually really, really good. So I think he'll be very effective. One of the reasons why I did trust the Jets to win is because I think they can run all over the Dolphins. And with Justin Fields active, the offense will be better. I think Breece Hall will have more scoring opportunities. I think he will be a good RB2 this week, top 20 in my updated finalized rankings. So he moves up 6 spots. I was kind of feeling like I was just too low on him earlier in the week, and he does jump guys like Tony Pollard, Cam Skattebo, and these other players moving down. So that's why Pollard comes down a little bit. But I think given the Chargers matchup for Cam Skattebo, I'm less excited about him. Jaylen Warren being questionable, I'm also a bit worried he doesn't finish the game. Chuba Hubbard, that's also relevant, so maybe those guys have more of a touch split this week. Given their questionable status, I did rank all of those guys behind Alvin Kamara. I think Kamara has a pretty high ceiling this week. The Bills offer some garbage time, and even though his targets have been up and down, 2 weeks ago, he still had 6 catches. I still think it's possible he can contribute heavily in the passing game. So still just a flex play at RB21, but did upgrade him 3 spots. I bumped up Breece Hall even higher, though. Breece Hall, I think a good RB2 start this week in fantasy. Kamara right in the high-end flex discussion this week. However, I did stay put with DeAndre Swift. However, I changed the line of demarcation for when you're going to start benching players. Originally, I had the black line, which indicates my less than 10-point projection where I'm pretty neutral on players. Originally, it was behind DeAndre Swift. Now it's above DeAndre Swift. I think you should be benching DeAndre Swift, but I was already pretty low on him. I'm just worried about the injuries on the offensive line and his injuries himself, all factoring in against a tough Raiders matchup. I don't think Swift is the best play. Very touchdown dependent. I don't think it happens. Without Darnell Wright, he'll probably be less efficient as well. So Swift, not the safest play, not my favorite option this week. Outside the top 30, I did bump up RJ Harvey 3 spots. And although his volume has diminished, when you look into this Bengals matchup, it looks just so appealing. I think the Broncos offense is going to play very well. Sean Payton with an extra day to prepare will dial up some really good game plans. And I think RJ Harvey will get some garbage time and be very efficient. He can break open a big play at any time. So I do think you want to be starting J.K. Dobbins, but there's also a lot of upside for Harvey this week. I think he's in that low-end flex discussion, but hasn't seen enough volume to trust. Just like Travion Henderson, I think they're both on the cusp of a potential breakout, but until we see it, you just can't quite trust him in the lineup yet. I'd rather go RJ Harvey, though, than JCM. JCM dealing with an injury, I think, is less of a safe pick. Kareem Hunt and Baishal Tutin also very touchdown dependent. I'd rather go RJ Harvey. The matchup is just so good for Harvey against the Bengals. So a little more appealing, but still behind DeAndre Swift, who I already also told you to bench. And then definitely in the bench territory, I did upgrade Rico Dowdle 5 spots overall. The injury to Chuba Hubbard does make Dowdle a little more interesting. Kenny Gainwell kind of stays put. Even if he gets more touches, the Vikings matchup is more difficult, so not moving him. But Rico Dowdle deserves a roster spot given Chuba Hubbard is already on the injury report. There's a chance that Dowdle does get more volume in the coming weeks. So he enters the top 40, but not going to start him. I'm still trusting Chuba in the Panthers backfield. And those are all of my updates at running back this week. And now let's talk about the wide receiver position, where in the top 10, I did lose a little confidence in Davante Adams. He missed 2 practices this week, but is expected to play. As long as he's active, he's a game time decision. You definitely should be starting Davante Adams. He's been too good to bench. However, given he's a game time call, I don't think I can rank him in the top 5 anymore. He moves down 5 spots, but still a top 10 receiver. I'm still starting him as long as he is healthy. Outside the top 15, I think Xavier Worthy is a more confident play now that he was full all week in practice. If he had been limited every day, then I would have kept him at number 20. But knowing he was good to go all week, that is a good sign. And you know he's getting a lot of targets against Baltimore. So that game has shootout potential. Xavier Worthy, a safer play, moves up 4 spots overall. However, Ladd McConkey, I don't think is that much different than Quentin Johnston. I actually evened my ranking on both Ladd and QJ this week. So originally I had Ladd at 18. I bumped him down 5 spots. And previously I had Quentin Johnston at wide receiver 30. I bumped him up 6 spots. Now I have them back to back at 23 and 24. And I think you should be starting both of them. The Chargers receiving core is one of the best in the NFL. It's hard to find 3 wide receivers that are playing as good, if not better, than the Chargers' top 3 options. So I do think they want to get Ladd a touchdown at this point. It's kind of a long time coming for him to find the end zone, and I do think it happens this week. But so far, Quentin Johnston has been getting a lot more involved, a lot more targets, and I believe he has the same amount of upside, if not higher. So far, he's been a top 10 receiver in fantasy. So I want to start him. I want to start both of them, and I think they're much closer to being even to each other than I originally ranked them on Wednesday. So they're both in the top 25. Start both Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and obviously Keenan Allen is in your lineup. I ranked him top 11 in this week's rankings. Beyond that point, everyone moves down just because Quentin Johnston does move up. And then I also downgraded Tetairoa McMillan 1 spot overall. I think Brian Thomas Jr. is a better start than Tet McMillan, because not only is he questionable, but then Christian Gonzalez is also back on the field. And even though Brian Thomas Jr. not giving you much confidence right now, I think the two are pretty similar. I would rather go BTJ than Tet this week. His odds at a touchdown, I think, cancel out the risk that would put his floor lower than Tet. I think BTJ at wide receiver 30, I'd rather start than Tet McMillan, but pretty negligible overall change on Tet McMillan, only 1 spot different. And I thought about it more in Green Bay. I think the argument I made for starting Matthew Golden at wide receiver 32 can be exactly made for why you should start Romeo Doubs. I upgraded Romeo Doubs 10 spots overall because I think I was just too low on him this week. I think Doubs has a very high ceiling against the terrible Cowboys secondary. Start your Packers receivers this week. They're still a bit random. That's why they're only flex plays, but in the top 35, I think they are worth a plug and play this week. Beyond Tet McMillan, I wouldn't rather have anyone other than the Packers' top 2 receivers, Golden and Doubs. Now I both have them in the top 33 at the position. I bumped down DJ Moore behind Romeo Doubs. He's not getting enough workload for me to feel more confident in this matchup for him. Vegas is not that scary, but Dallas is just that much better for guys like Doubs and Golden. So DJ Moore moves down 1 spot, and Jordan Addison, the more I think about it, I think is going to break open a pretty big play. I think Jordan Addison will play well. If Joey Porter returns, he's going to be on Justin Jefferson, which means other depth pieces move down the list. And I think Addison is poised to have a deep pass turn into a touchdown. I think Addison's going to play well. Wentz should have a good game against Pittsburgh. So I like Addison a bit more. I know it's a bit risky, but I'd rather go Jordan Addison than Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin, and guys like Waddle and DK Metcalf. I think Addison has that level upside where it's worth it. If you told me he had a 60-yard touchdown, I wouldn't be that shocked. He's a very good deep threat down the field. So like his talent, I like Jordan Addison. I think a top 35 receiver, not outside the top 40 like I used to have him. But a player moving up significantly as well would be Dontavian Wicks, but not high enough to trust. At wide receiver 45, it's the same argument as Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden. There's going to be points available for the Packers receiving core. He's my least favorite, but ranking him outside the top 59 was, I think, the wrong call. I bumped him up 14 spots. At wide receiver 45, you could make an argument he should be in the lineup. Same level upside as someone like T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Darnell Mooney this week. All it takes is one big play, and against Dallas, it's not a bad bet to make. So interesting flyer, especially in DFS. I think for a very cheap price, Wicks has a lot of value, but probably not enough to start. I think I would only trust Golden and Dobbs if I was taking a swing in Green Bay this week. But lastly, I did bump up 2 players inside my top 60. We have Josh Downs moving up with the Alec Pierce injury. He's a little more interesting, but not enough to trust. And then given the injuries to both Pearsall and Jauan Jennings, I do think Demarcus Robinson has some level upside as well. He moves up 7 spots overall because of the Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall questionable status this week in San Francisco. Those are the updates to my wide receiver rankings. And at quarterback, tight end, and defense, I actually did not change a single thing. I'm tempted to rank Spencer Rattler higher, but it's still the Saints offense. I'm not going to do it. The Bills had extra time to prepare for this game, and I think they stopped Rattler pretty well. So Rattler, I already upgraded to quarterback 24. I can't go higher. He gets cropped out of the rankings because I'm only showing you the top 22. At 24, Rattler's interesting, but not worth starting. At tight end, I'm not going to change anything, so everyone stays put. And same goes for defenses. Even though there have been some injuries that previously I wasn't really factoring in, I still think they all have the same level appeal and upside. In general, I'm not changing my opinion at all on these 3 positions. So if you still need time to make those lineup decisions, you can pause the video and reference the rankings. Here are my flex rankings, the top 40 running backs and wide receivers. I think beyond the top 40, you're probably benching every running back for sure. And maybe you're in a deep format where some of the receivers might factor into the lineup, but I don't think they're worth it. I think at that point, the risk is pretty bad. Maybe you're just desperate enough where you have to. But if you need all the rankings, you can reference the full videos posted on my channel earlier in the week. Outside the top 45, I doubt they'll factor in to your lineup. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We give you an injury update every single week on Saturday to finalize that roster. If you don't want to miss out, ring the notification bell for all my new content. I will see you next time. My name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching. Nice and blunt.